Walking, sipping tea flavored with Swerve and heavy cream. Walking, and without the drive to create stress, there is no stress adaptation. Even more so, oxidative stress, right? So while I'm walking, I'm also, the first thing I do every morning that I wake up, at least these days, is I'm doing orthomolecular science and nutrition therapy, which is basically just high dose vitamin C several times throughout the day. I just had 4 eggs pan fried in generous butter. I ease into my walk and I sip on my black tea. Right now I'm staying away from coffee and I'm really trying to hone in a more balanced, holistic focus. So this is one of the first times where I've got a good amount of protein powder sitting over here, which I love. I love the flavor. If you look at my recipes, I love making protein ice cream, just with heavy cream and Swerve, and whipping that up if you want a lighter texture. I love making protein custard, where I'll mix 3 eggs in with protein powder in a blender, and I'll bake that in a double boiler, and it just turns out amazing. I'll often put a little heavy cream in with that as well, and it tastes amazing when you top that off with brown sugar Swerve and butter. Amazing. Amazing if you cool it down in the refrigerator before you eat it. Really has this thick, almost flan-like texture or consistency, but you can taste the protein in every bite. It's really amazing. Well, I've been staving off of that because I know what, like, having taken it too far, right? I lost too much weight the last time around, just last year. And that threw me into a metabolic tailspin. Even though I kept going back, I was ever more depleted. I wasn't getting the nutrients that I needed. And finally, pressing my nose to the grindstone after being ill earlier this year, wanting to focus in on my channel, wanting to focus in on my fitness and my lifestyle, I felt like I was too old and I just was over with. I was out to pasture. I'd had enough. There was no vitality. No matter how many supplements I took, which you can't always trust what you're even getting. And then I discovered, I started to do research. ChatGPT helped me out. ChatGPT's been solid. And I began to research all the areas that I knew I was deficient in and how I could affordably, right, address all these issues. And lo and behold, what came up was something that I had supplemented in the past without even knowing it, in a powdered form. It changed my life. It brought up my strength. It brought up my vitality, but I never really thought about it as a standalone. I never realized that that was the one supplement or the one product that I needed. Now, fast forward many years later, it's a little over $2 a pound. And this supplement is a food, and it's called beef liver. And I can get in a myriad, from CQ10 to zinc to selenium, but really high in vitamin A, which you have to be careful of. That's why you don't want to overdo it with beef liver. This is the kind of thing, just like the walking I'm doing, right? Just like staying in ketosis and not getting thrown out of ketosis by taking in too much protein, which also spikes insulin. That's a very big point that most people miss. It's why they cling on and hang on to extra fat. Even when I was ultra lean and I had gotten close to the body that I was working so diligently and so hard for, and doing it in record time, right? I started that year, not going to say obese, but overweight, right? And I ended it. Well, yeah, in 2023, I was obese. You can look at the pictures. It doesn't lie. And then by the end of 2023, I was very lean. In fact, on many charts, I was 10 to 20 pounds below where my recommended weight was. But there was a time there, a glory time, when I felt strong and I was probably getting minimal amounts of all these nutrients like that I discussed here with that's in beef liver, vitamin A, copper, iron, high levels. Amazing returns, amazing results. A little over $2 a pound to change your life, literally. Most people don't like the flavor of things that are really healthy. That's just the way everything is. Creatine's one of those, right? Things that really make a big difference in our lives. We have to kind of learn to dial it down, right? At some point after, like what I'm doing right now, I'm super dosing the oxidative stress and exercise. My body reacts through cortisol, right? And the exercise induces cortisol, but it also creates enough stress to drive the vitamin C into my cells, right? And then vitamin C have so many benefits, but it's a very difficult thing to keep going. Most people just sort of flit in and out of that, right? And so we want to keep a steady and a consistent metabolic positive focus on things that are really building up tissues, right? And it's essential to take in your vitamin C's, especially, just the synergizing with proline and glycine and the production of collagen just to build up tissues. So I saw everything that I was missing. I addressed it. And, a lot of times we think, oh, we're just going to order protein powder, We want to trust what's on the label. And even though, I feel good about the protein powders and the prices of the powders that I order, I'm not any longer relying on it as a stable source, a standalone, if you will, a go-to where I'll just sort of trust in the process of protein alone that just drives us into gluconeogenesis. Now, gluconeogenesis also drives the vitamin C into your cells. So there's a big relationship there with cortisol, G&G, so obviously you're going to want to take in an adequate amount of protein, but if you cut back to the bare minimum, and you allow the fat to become, to drive those ketone bodies and become your fuel source, you're going to achieve your rapid fat loss in record time. And I would venture to say that when people think that they're doing the right thing, or they think that they're, sticking to their guns and they're doing nothing but protein, they don't realize the high insulin spikes that are created and the fact that they're actually prompting their body to hang on to stored fat in particular areas that are very troublesome. So I went back to the drawing board. I figured out what was going on. I keep my insulin spikes low. I let exercise act as insulin to shuttle vital nutrients into the cell. And I also break down the super dosing, even with beef liver. If I feel like I really need to take it in, those nutrients in that I've talked about, particularly vitamin A, right? Copper, iron. If I feel like I've got to get those levels up, CQ10. The list is huge. It is a multivitamin, particularly if you're eating eggs and even sardines. You're getting everything that you could possibly think of, right? And that's the direction eventually one wants to go in, right? Where we're eating healthier, we've got a little bit more disposable income that we can put directly into our fitness, our health and fitness goals. But for right now, that's what's working for me. And then I was graced with this TRX suspension trainer that in the distant past, I trained thousands of sessions Literally, no hyperbole. I'm not embellishing at all. I on record trained thousands of sessions worth of TRX. I've got the exercises in the back of my head. I'd have to go, invent or or discover new exercise progressions for my clients, and they never wanted to use anything else but the TRX. And so, like beef liver, having discovered it, but in a a more supplement form, and sort of mistaking it, or even minimizing its role as a go-to multivitamin, really bar none, right? I did the same thing with TRX. I didn't realize how essential and fundamental it was to the training routine and my general fitness. And so my uncle, sadly, ironically, passed away from congenital heart failure, and he was diabetic, even though he looked like the picture of health, really, for his age. And he didn't have all those structural components down that would allow him to express his genius, and his abilities to effectively instruct and pass on his expertise, which he was really into cars. Like he had parts for the most obscure cars all around the world. He spent time in Germany, learned to speak German and read and write German while he was in the service, and had books on German auto repair, right? Written in German. So he was a very very knowledgeable man, and we want to be around in order to impress and express who we are to the next generations, and even people in our generation, or maybe older than us, people that really need that support. And so, this is a vital call out to vitality in general, in specific, as to say that if you can only afford, so much, that to look at beef liver and to realize at this current time, right? Yes, there are downsides. Yes, there is, a negative aspect to the fact that this does come from a living animal, right? But the way that I see it is you can't affect a change until you use the resources that are available to you at the time. And that is the warrior's code, right? So we take what we can, we amass all the strength that we can, we use the time to build ourselves up. And then when we have the resources, we can start thinking about fine tuning and changing things a little bit more, So it'd be nice if we could take in some supplements that didn't necessarily rely on animal byproducts, right? But until that time comes, it's one of the highest nutritional value foods that you can buy out there for a minimal price. Literally, you could break down an entire pound of beef liver over an entire week's period and spend less than $3 per pound on the beef liver and eat more nutrition than you do. Like the other day, I keep trying to get my son to eat beef liver. And finally he was asking me, he's like, can I put like ketchup on it? Can we put A1 on it? And that was one of the only times where I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, you could. I mean, obviously the ketchup isn't the way to go, right? And the A1, like I don't use the stuff, right? Currently, the fructose and the sugar and all that. But when you factor it out, if you have to take in something that's a little unhealthy to get something that's going to change your life and keep you alive, well, you need to figure out how to do that. So if you want to cook your beef liver with onions or, garlic, or top it with A1 steak sauce, or put it in a sandwich, or make a type of liverwurst out of it by throwing in some Worcestershire sauce, I personally think that anything that you could do that could be considered harmful is going to invariably become minimized and probably completely negligent in the fact that it's actually hurting you when you look at the entire scope of the process of, say, eating beef liver for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, going into a month, going into months upon months, right? You don't want to overdo the beef liver, right? But I put up a beef liver video, and some people were talking about how they like to make tacos out of it, right? When they add just the right things in with that taco, they don't even notice they're eating the beef liver. There's ways to prepare it, right? And it's just one of the most healthy things. You will feel the vitality. So between the TRX, orthomolecular nutrition at its pure form, right? And obviously beef liver, I've got my staples back to really go on and challenge this thing with a lot of vitality and take things further than I ever have. So look out for some amazing videos to come. A lot of workout videos, a lot of instruction videos that I thought I would never be able to make again. And I could see myself actually eclipsing the results that I got back in the day when I was a top level trainer, working myself out and training all day to get what many considered like the Adonis index. Well, I'm going beyond that. I'm taking things to a whole nother level at almost 56 years old. So look out for some amazing things to come. Rogue Beast Warrior, unleash the beast in you, but keep it tame.